time of the year, but also a time when your child's health can take a knock. Safety during this time also becomes a priority. With the current COVID-19 pandemic and the fourth wave, parents already have a lot to worry about without stressing over other health problems that could creep up on your children during the festive season. Children will be spending their days outdoors as usual this festive season. Let's discuss safety measures to keep the children safe and happy this time of the year. We're now joined via Zoom by the director of the Teddy Bear Clinic, Dr. Shaheda Omar. Dr. Omar, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, Doctor,
thank you. And I think I want to just add.
Now, Dr. Omar was going to say, of course, our conversation is going to center around safety measures during this time. But also there are those health concerns, especially as it relates to the emotional health of children. What are some of the tips or advice that you can give parents to look out for during this time, specifically during the festive season? And of course, we are in a pandemic.
Yes, indeed, we are in a pandemic, and we must not underscore that or dismiss that. The reality is that we've been faced with this since 2019. Well, 2020 March hit, the pandemic hit our shores, and children have been subjected to a lot of stress, a lot of trauma, a lot of anxiety and insecurities. And not to alarm parents during this festive period, but to alert them not to let their guard down. They need to look out for signs and symptoms. Firstly, they need to be talking to their children regularly, consistently, on a daily basis about safety measures, not allowing children to wander off on their own without knowing the whereabouts of who and where and with whom they're going to be traveling or walking or playing. I think that is important. Yes, it is a festive time. It is time to relax, especially under the circumstances where so much emotional stress has been endured by all. But the reality is that we find perpetrators out there, your opportunistic predators who are looking out for opportunities to violate children. Kidnapping is not something that we can forget about or dismiss, because it is not only the most affluent or the rich families that are hard hit by this reality, but a lot of people, and for various reasons. It may be for ransom, it may be for organ transplant, it may be for child trafficking. These are realities that we need to be aware of, and parents need to be conscious about not posting images on social media about where they're going to and identifying particulars of their children or photos of their children as well. I think this is a risk factor, but also to ensure that parents have kept recent photos of their children with medical records, dental records, and also not allow children to engage on social media without their knowledge of whom they're interacting with, whom they're engaging with, but discuss with children not to release personal details of their whereabouts, where they are, their geographic location, because often predators are looking out for these opportunities. And parents, when you are going to malls, shopping malls, restaurants, do not get distracted or release your child. If you have a very little child, ensure that they have a name tag with personal details, so that they could be identified, but keep the child tied to you like a leash. It might sound like a draconian measure, but it is essential for the safety and security of your child. If you're in a restaurant and there's a playground out there, you cannot let your child play unsupervised without your oversight, ensuring that the child is within your safe distance, because these are risk factors that we need to be aware of and alerted to at all times.
Now, Dr. Omar, of course, you are raising some very fundamental issues here, particularly, some of the issues like kidnappings that we've seen in this country, just being very topical recently. But then you have campaigns like 16 Days of Activism that happened during of activism against violence, and those happen during a set time. Surely these campaigns and the conversation that we're having today, surely these should be conversations that we're having throughout the year. Because the reality is that whilst parents would like to strike a balance of keeping their children independent as much as possible, there's also the reality of the country in which we live in, where crime against children is very high at the moment. And the reality is that, as you've said, there are predators who are constantly looking at new ways to lure children. So what then should the interventions be, from a national level? I mean, I know that we've got the National Plan Against Violence and Femicide, but what more can we do as parents, as society, as well as government?
Well, I think the important thing you've raised here is, of course, awareness raising is an ongoing thing. 365 days. Yes, it's a responsibility of everybody. It's a co-responsibility, and parents must be reminded or alerted to this fact. Where they need to talk, during playtime, during breakfast time, during bedtime routines, about safe and unsafe touches, about, yes, there is the stranger danger factor, but it could also be people that are known to the family, relatives, friends, acquaintances, people in the neighborhood. So parents need to also have coded language with their children, that if a child is feeling uncomfortable in a gathering where the child has been targeted in some way or another without the parent being aware of that, the child needs to be taught to, use sign language or some kind of signal, but also to give children whistles. At the moment they feel threatened, they need to blow that whistle. If they're in a supermarket with their parents and parents have been distracted and the child is being lured away, they need to, break things to draw attention to themselves. So parents, we urge you to talk every day to your child to ensure that the child knows his or her full name, their physical address, cell phone numbers where possible, and that remember, if your child is missing, do not wait and do not be allowed to be told by law enforcement that you need to wait a certain period.
Dr.
You need
Omar,
to ensure that it's reported and
Dr. Omar, thank you so much for that. Very, very important points being raised here as we head out to the festive season. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you on the show, Dr. Shaheda Omar. All right, now let's